about saying you're going to do something and then doing it, borrowing money and paying it back. That's how you build credit. Well, that's how you get forward in life in general. So, and Steve and I have talked a lot about these things, but I get inspired by the great men who came before us. And if you go look at Ben Franklin and go look at George Washington. Now, these are men from the past. These are the greatest men in the history of the United States, probably the two greatest in my mind. If you put a third in there, it's probably Lincoln, at least in my mind. If you put a fourth, you could say a bunch of other people. But early American history, those are the greatest. Franklin, since he was a teenager, he identified 13 virtues. And every day, he looked at those 13 virtues, and he focused on a different one every week. And he had this regular routine. He figured, if I could do these 13 things well, I will have a good life. George Washington, as a 16-year-old, did a very similar thing. He created, and you can go look these up, and we'll have them on the website if they're not already up there now. Washington created 110 what he called rules of civility and decent behavior. And he looked at those every day for the rest of his life. That was his list. That's how he was going to get ahead. So we're taking many of those simple same concepts and saying, you as a person have to create your own list. You have to create a plan. Steve talks about this: make a plan ahead, work it, things will get better, and it will. And if you don't do that, they generally just don't get better as quickly, if at all. The nice thing about now where technology can help you is think about how to involve, trusted friends of yours, and you can build a little private area, and they can help you stay on track. So that's, Steve, you tell me what I missed.
No, you didn't miss anything, but let me say something about what you just said. I am a prime example of how high-level thinking with technology and the whole concept of how important it is to be connected. I am an example because, look at right now. I've been connected with Dave for 5 years, and it's opened up many, many doors. And that's a wonderful thing. But Dave has got technology that a lot of people, they can't understand how just connecting with people and one another through technology like Facebook and being involved like that can help people change their lives other than just being a whole lot of, gossip, for the lack of a better word. And what I'm saying is, Dave is at this level with what you've done, Dave, that enables people, once they want to understand that being connected to others with a sense of community will give them a much more fulfilling, better life. If you go to my website, rightthink.org, RIGHTTHINK.org, and you look at a little video that you're going to see right in the home page there, at the very end of it, when the video stops, where I introduce myself and what Right Thinking does, my logo, the bottom of my logo, is on the screen for a few seconds. Dave gave me that logo. He's the one that took my idea of what I want to do, and he taught me, well, Steve, in order to succeed, you've got to be connected with community. And then he gave me 3 pillars. The first pillar is you got to have a place to live, you got to have an income, and you got to be involved in community. This stuff is so deep. I hope that we're communicating it to everybody here properly, but what I'm trying to say is this. If a person has a real desire to be there and be helpful to other people, to help them make their lives better, and they use all they've got, all their gifts, and they really care. In the interview with Jeff Heiser 5 weeks ago, he said the key was they have to genuinely care if they want to influence people, otherwise they're in the wrong business. So what I'm trying to say is simply this. Dave has tools. He has technology that if it's used properly, people that are struggling, if they want to be connected with other people, doors will open. and it's happened for me. And I thank Dave for that. That's why I got him on the show today. But it wasn't so much for Dave to just tell his whole life story, which I want y'all to hear. It's so that I can thank him publicly for all that he's done for me, to be behind me and open up so many doors. So, Dave, let's talk a minute. You want to respond to that, Dave? I guess you could say you're welcome.
The only response, two thoughts. First is there are a lot of people out there who are willing to help. There really are. I see them all the time. And people are busy and they have lives and they have kids, but so many people will lean out and help to some degree when they can. So there really are a lot of people. I'm incredibly encouraged by people's willingness to help. That's the first part. The second part of that is they're even more willing to help when they run into people that are trying to succeed. And they're even more willing to help when they've run into somebody that is down on their luck and is really, really working hard to try to succeed. People will try to lean in and help. So the point of that is there's help out there, A, but B, it has to start with the individual saying, I'm going to make my life better. And I love running into those people. And any one person can only do so much, but you try, you connect them with others. And so to this point of how do you show people that you're trying, the answer is you get started. You do it. You make a plan. It's all the stuff Steve talks about. The reason I warmed up to Steve so much is you've never seen Steve. Let me tell you about Steve. Steve is about 5'10". He weighs about 127 pounds, soaking wet.
5'11", 161. Thank you.
And he is the scrappiest SOB you've ever run into. And if I was ever in a foxhole and I need someone behind me, Steve is the guy. And he's not going to give up. And he's had terrible health issues, and he's not given up from those. He survived through the 2008 real estate recession. I mean, I love people like that. And almost all of my friends from every walk of life look like Steve, and we've all run into these adversities. And so there's other people like, obviously, me. There's lots of them. And if you're someone, you should emulate Steve in terms of don't give up. He says it pretty straightforward. So anyways, I digress, but that's kind of what really getting ahead is, and it's not rocket science. It's just grinding through. And let me, because again, I don't want to get this. It sounds horrible and burdensome. My belief is, wherever you are in life, have a goal in mind. Literally, think where you'd like to be in 5 or 10 years, and it's probably a lot better place than you are today. Think about it. And now say, okay, how do I get started? How do I get started in that direction? And you get started by getting a job, any job, doing a great job in whatever job you're in. And if you do a great job in any job you're in, whether it's washing dishes, and I've done every one of these jobs, trust me. Washing dishes, waiting tables, I've raked and sold seaweed, I've knit lobster pot nets, doesn't matter. And I've also been executive of a very large company. And the common denominator is you get ahead when you work hard and do a good job, because bosses take note of that, customers take note of that. And when you're doing that, you're keeping in mind wherever you want to end up, a bigger vision, a better vision.
That's good, Dave. Okay, Dave, I think that we've established that you're a person that really is doing a lot trying to help people have a better life, which is what right thinking's all about. I want to share this. About 2.5 years ago, Dave came up with a program that he said maybe right thinking could add to its curriculum. And it was called Win That First Job. And it stressed the importance of getting started right away, even if you've been incarcerated or you're out of work. Maybe this is not for somebody who's been incarcerated. Maybe it's just for some regular person whose company went out of business, and all of a sudden you're a 52-year-old person that is unemployed. And you're getting a little depressed because you're not supporting your family. So anyway, anybody that's not working, Dave gave me an outline for the program that he's now taken to the Virginia Department of Corrections. And for the last 2 years, I incorporated it. And it's basically, hey, if you're making $60 an hour as a truck driver and you can't keep your license anymore, it's okay to go work for minimum wage and just get started. But what I want to do now, Dave, for the last 6 or 7 minutes of the interview, I would like for you to give the listeners the whole seminar condensed on what you do when you encourage people. Train us on how to get out there and get employed, Dave, because you're a master at it.
In 6 minutes. Wow, I don't exactly know how to do that, Steve. But let me take a
hey, Dave,
quick
we'll bring
shot.
you back. We'll bring you back for the long version, okay?
Okay. The short version is you just have to get started. Any job, it's easier to get a job, a better job, when you have a job. And my mother always said to me, any honest day's work is honorable. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. And so you got to get a job. And the way to then again, let's take dishwashing. If you're the world's best dishwasher, and you show up on time and you wash dishes better than everybody else in the restaurant, and you're always punctual, and you're the one that's raised, and you say to the boss, hey, boss, anytime someone doesn't come into their shift and you need someone, call me on short notice and I'll show up. If you're the type of employee that is their number one employee in any area, trust me, when an opening comes up that may pay more in that job, let's say it's a waiter or a busser or whatever, you have an opportunity now to move up there. And now you're making more money and you're up a higher level. And if you're doing the same thing in that job, you say to the boss, look, anytime someone drops a shift, won't show up, call me, I show up. Super Bowl Sunday, I'll show up. Christmas Eve, I'll show up. That's the type of people that go ahead, because then at some point they're looking for an assistant manager. You're moving up to assistant manager. So the point is there are paths forward. Every one of them is based on the performance you do. And if you are the kind of the best and you're putting the team first and you're putting your boss's success first and you're putting the clients first, you will move up. But you got to get started. And don't worry about where you start.
Let me ask you a question, Dave. Let me interrupt you, Dave. How about interviews? How about interview skills? I mean, you've hired many, many people. You teach people how to go through a proper interview. What are some of the pointers that you want to share with people that don't know how to do interviewing properly and don't feel like they're going to get hired?
Be prepared. Now, so what does that mean? If you have if you're a returning citizen and you're a convicted felon, you better have a simple answer to the question of tell me about that. And the first thing out of your mouth should be something to the effect of, whoops, I really screwed up. I spent time, I've screwed up, I've learned, and I'm trying to make my life better. And you shouldn't try to gloss over it. You shouldn't hide it. You should address the elephant in the room. So that's one. Because if you don't address it, you know people are thinking about it, whatever that issue is. The second thing I would say is understand the company that you're going into. If you go into interview at a construction company for a construction job, go spend 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours down at the public library on the internet learning about that company, learning about that company's competitors, learning about what their company is about. So when you walk in, you can actually talk about the company that you're applying for. You're actually showing that you care. You're showing that you're someone that wants to succeed. Trust me, if you did that before you went into interview for a construction job, you would stand out from 99% of the other people applying for that job.
Hey, Dave, when you taught that to me, let me slip this in on you, Dave. You taught that to me, and I've been teaching that to people. Even if you only got 10 minutes the night before, learn something about the company so that you can turn the interview around, and it shows initiative. That's what you taught me on this program, is that if you do a little bit of research and they're looking at your resume, And you got to separate